Welcome to Torah Tuesday. This week's Parshat is called Parshat Vayechi. And as we near the conclusion of the book of Bereshit, or Genesis, we learn one of the profound and most important and central values of our Jewish faith. How we treat those who have died, how we remember them, how we integrate their lessons into our lives, tells volumes about the kind of people we are and how we wish to live in ourselves. In this week's Torah portion, we encounter a beautiful teaching that reminds us about this value of integrity and being true to our commitments and how we remember our beloved dead. In this Torah portion, we encounter Jacob near the end of his life, who in a beautiful scene gathers his children around him and offers words of blessing for each of them. And in the midst of this moment of blessing, Jacob reminds his children of how important it is to him, even though they are going to be living in Egypt, that they return his body to the burial place, the family place of honor, so that he can be laid to rest near his beloved relatives. And then Jacob dies. And the Torah tells us that Joseph and Joseph's brothers, Jacob's family, lived in Egypt. And near the end of the Parsha, we encounter Joseph, himself an old man, who asks his family to remember that though they are in Egypt, someday to be reminded that God will fulfill the promise to the Jewish people to be returned to the land of Israel. And Joseph says to his family, when I die, remember, and someday please promise me that my bones will be returned to the land of Israel. This commitment, this promise, this integrity that reminds us of the importance of memory, this commitment to this value of honoring our beloved dead and their wishes, becomes a part of our core faith as a Jewish people. And the rabbis remember this in the beautiful midrash that they write about the exodus from Egypt that will occur in the next book of the Torah, the book of Shemot or Exodus. We learn that the midrashic teaching remembers this commitment of Joseph. And we read of a beautiful moment, a magical moment, when Moses, in the midst of leading the people of Israel out of Egypt and back through the Sinai desert towards the Promised Land, pauses. He goes down, according to the imagination of the rabbis, to the banks of the Nile River, and there he removes the bones of Joseph, which had been preserved, according to legend, for generation, in a coffin buried, surrounded in waterproof pitch under the waters of the Nile River. And Moses reminds the people that they have to bring the bones of Joseph with them, not only remembering Joseph's physical wish to be buried in the land of Israel, but more importantly, remembering something that we now must incorporate into our lives, to fulfill the wishes of those who we love, who ask us to honor their memory in death, not only through the physical commitments of honoring the dead and burying the dead and remembering them and mourning them, but most importantly, how we live our lives. Do we remember the commitments of those who came before us? Do we incorporate them into our lives? And do we seek to be the kinds of people that they most wished that we would be? I believe our lessons of the Torah in Parshat Vayechi, which continue to be a part of our Jewish tradition, remind us that this is one of our core values, how we honor our dead, how we preserve their memory, and how we live our lives is truly a